This video walks you through the process of creating a fully functional website for businesses needing a modern website presence. It uses Nuxt to build out the application, leveraging the VueJs JavaScript framework and the Tailwind CSS styling tools. The generated application will be a website for a home remodeling business named Happy Homes. It will include a gallery of sample projects, a contact page, and an about page. I will be covering the following topics: creating the project, restructuring the project to handle automatic routing, integrating Tailwind CSS for styling, adding a common page layout, and using custom components. You can clone this project from GitLab using the URL shown. If you clone this project, you can view the README file to see all the steps that I will be demonstrating in the video, as well as some general information about the project structure. You will also find instructions for checking out the code at various stages of completion. Our first step is to run a command line tool to create the project. The npm npx command will build out everything for us. This takes a bit of time. I'll fast forward a bit. We are prompted to select a few options. I've selected npm to manage packages and the option to initialize Git. I will skip adding additional modules for now. Now, we can use the npm run dev command to run the application so we can see what it looks like. This is what our bare-bones application looks like. Our next step is to restructure the project so that we can take advantage of Nuxt's automatic routing capabilities. Let's first take a look at the project structure. There is an app.vue file in the app directory that generates the default page. It contains two Nuxt components, one that provides an assistive feature to announce the current route, and one that displays the Nuxt welcome page. I am going to add two new directories to the top level: components and pages. The Nuxt routing system uses these directories to find our components, which are reusable HTML elements, and our pages, which are the actual pages of the application. I am also going to create a new app.vue file in the root directory. The app.vue file contains just the single Nuxt page element. It handles routing for the application. I am also creating index.vue in the pages subdirectory. This will be our home page. I don't need the app.vue file or the app directory, so I will delete them now. To summarize, we have abandoned the default application structure and created a new one that uses the Nuxt routing system. Now the main app page is in the root directory and acts as the router for the application. We can now add additional pages to the pages directory, and the application will handle routing to them. Here is our revised application that is using routing. You can see that our default page is now the index.vue file. So far, so good. Now let's add another page in the pages directory. It will be our about page and can be reached by adding about to the base URL. I am going to paste in some boilerplate text that ChatGPT generated for the new about page. Because I have created this file in the pages directory, nothing more is required to make it available in the application. Here is our updated application. If I append about to the URL, we should see our new page. This completes our initial modifications to add routing to the application. Our next steps will add support for Tailwind CSS for styling the application. Adding Tailwind CSS support into the application will involve installing some npm packages and adding or modifying a few configuration files. Back in the terminal, I am going to install a couple of npm packages. First, we will need to add the basic Tailwind CSS support into the project. You will notice that this has generated a couple warning messages. These issues may be resolved by the time you see this video. Next, I am going to add in support for Google Fonts. I will make use of some of these later in the video. Finally, I will run a command to initialize a JavaScript configuration file that Tailwind requires. Tailwind CSS looks in the CSS directory inside an assets directory in the project. Neither of directories these exist yet, so I will create them now. The first file to update is the Tailwind configuration file that was just created. I am replacing the default content with directives that specify which files in the project will be using Tailwind. The default Nuxt configuration must also be updated to include Tailwind modules and Google font files. Next, I am going to create two CSS files. The main.css file imports Tailwind and Nuxt CSS modules, and the tailwind.css file contains my custom CSS code to style the HTML in my pages. The last step is to change the home page to make use of Tailwind. Here is what the home page looks like with some simple Tailwind styles. To give the application a consistent look and feel, I am going to create a layout. The layout will contain a header and a footer, and the main content will be rendered in a slot that is defined in the layout. All the pages in the application will use this layout. The layout will be defined in a file named default.vue in a layouts directory. Note that multiple layouts can be defined in Nuxt, and specific layouts can be assigned to specific pages, but I will not be covering that in this video. Our first task is to update the app.vue file to use layouts. I will wrap the Nuxt page component inside a Nuxt layout component. Next, I will create a new directory named layouts, and a file within that directory named default.vue. This file defines an application header and a navigation bar, followed by a slot for the page content. It also contains some default CSS styling. Application pages will be rendered by rendering the default layout with the application page content inserted into the layout slot. Here is the updated application with the new layout. This is looking pretty good. Our app bar works, but we are lacking any real content. Let's work on that next. But first, let's talk about custom components. Nuxt uses the VueJs framework under the hood, which supports user-defined, custom components. These components can be used to encapsulate functionality and styling, and can be reused across multiple pages. I will create a couple of these now to use in our pages. Here is an example of a very simple component to render a page title. The component has three parts: an HTML template, a script section, and a style section. The HTML section must contain a template tag that in turn contains a single child tag, typically a div. The script section contains JavaScript code, or in this case TypeScript, that defines the arguments, or props, that can be passed to the component. It can also contain additional data elements, functions, and lifecycle hooks. This style of defining a component is called the Vue Composition API. Here's another component to show a simple photo gallery. It uses the Options API. You will notice that the script tag in this case does not contain setup. This is an older style of defining a component, and one that I think is more clear and easier to read. It exports an object containing a props property, a data property that defines a function returning an object containing additional reactive data values, and a methods property that contains internal methods that the component will use. As with the Composition API, the template section contains our HTML. With this component, I display a flexbox list of image thumbnails and a single larger image with its caption. Here is the code for the gallery page of our application. In the template, I first include the page header component to display a standard page title. This is followed by some additional text and then an instance of the photos component. Down in the script section, the props section is empty because this page needs no configuration. The mounted method is called when the page is mounted, but does nothing here. The components section lists the components that are used in the page HTML, and the data function returns my reactive data elements. In this case, it is a list of objects, each containing an image URL and a caption. There are no additional methods needed by this page. Here is our finished application. The landing page, index.vue, displays a large company logo with some welcome text. The gallery page displays photos of example remodeling projects. Clicking a thumbnail at the top shows a larger version of the image and its caption. The contact page provides a way for potential customers to contact the company, and the About page displays some information about the application. This concludes this introduction to using Nuxt to build a web application. We covered creating a new project from scratch, adding routing, Tailwind CSS, and layouts, and how to create custom components for use in our pages. I've included a reference here to a great YouTube video that covers Nuxt in more detail. It is how I got up to speed with Nuxt, and it is a great resource for anyone getting started with Nuxt. Thank you for watching this video. I welcome any comments or suggestions you may have. Bye for now.